Hey, everybody. So it's amazing how close we are. We are like on the last, I feel, round around the track here. And there's so many great things you're going to be able to see. It's so exciting to be able to see the full lit and rendered pass of Ritual. This has been like a sequence I've been wanting to see for so long, and it's going to look so cool. So you're going to be able to see that. Also, Village is like 99% done for animation. We're so close, and it's looking so great. And then it's amazing to say that we are down to our last 3 sequences to animate: Ritual, boss fight, fanny pack. No, that's what's in animation right now. We have a few more after that's right. So what we have to see in animation, or what's in animation right now, is Ritual, boss fight, and fanny pack. And then we have just a couple more after that. And then you're going to be able to still hear the score is still going through its process of finding what is the right tone and mood. And there's just a lot of exciting stuff. It's all coming together. So, and then layout is done. I think layout, we can officially say, was finished this week. So yeah. That is awesome. Oh boy. Yeah. So, and so now we got a new animator from Iceland, which is great. And so Hjalti, I'll let you share what you've been working on.
Sure. I'm an animator now. Oh my God. So just to kind of finish off with the layout, I did one thing just at the start of the week because I thought it was so interesting last week how I just placed the camera to see the context of the layout that I had been working on, where you saw all the different cheating going on, where like I was moving things around and whatnot. And I just did a better pass of that, where you can actually see it more in context. So you can see kind of what the shot actually looks like from the camera's point of view. And then I made sure that whatever camera is active is always kind of seen inside of that scene. So that's kind of what it looks like. It's a lot of cheating going on. Like that log bridge just kind of goes back in time a few times. And then, yeah, that poor tree got severely distorted a couple of times. Speaking of which, the tree got updated. Basically, we got a new tree, and then I had to go back into the layout to make sure that this new tree was basically in the same shape that I had cheated the old tree. So this is very boring, but look at the new tree. And this actually got updated even better than I have here. And then old tree, new tree, old tree, new tree, old tree, new tree, old tree, new tree. So it's very exciting. Anyway, some notes. Besides all of that, I have a lot of different versions because of course we're trying out different things, but I have fanny pack. I have the first 2 shots are like relatively there. And then the 3rd shot, I was working on it today and I kind of ran out of time. Amazing. So short little, okay. One more time since you're encoring. Oh, so good. Oh my God. Woo.
It is amazing.
All right. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy action going on. Okay, and that's my week.
There's a lot of stuff happening in lighting, and currently we're racing to finish. We have raced to finish Village and Ritual for lighting. So both of these sequences are done, and next week it'll be back into intro and finishing off that. So we did some cosmetic changes and additions to the background trees and branches. So you'll be able to see that when Simon shows his stuff. But first of all, what can I show of yes, so Burning Fill. That was a lot of fun. Last week I started Burning Fill already. And then this week was the integration with the torch animation. This was quite straightforward because every torch is an emitter and it needs a little domain to be simulated. So I actually started out with this, and it's quite tricky when the sprites are throwing the torches because the domain has to be super large in order to accompany for that throw. So what I started out with is just making one domain each for all the torches. And that took a long time because customizing the domain for each of those throws was quite time consuming. So someone suggested, why don't you just use one large domain? And that's what I did. Only that it introduced a lot of problems where the animation would be on twos and then there would be constraint switching. So there would be torches going all over the place and I had to fix that. So I managed to fix that by a trick that Simon told me about, which is just bake the emitters on, like bake the actions. That gets rid of the constraints, and the actions are then interpolated on linear, which doesn't get rid of the whooshing about, whatever. It's better now. So that's how this looks like. This is the torch animation. And well, the simulation is on ones. So, but the torch animation is on twos. So that was tricky to do it. So this then was, I really wanted to get the effect that Phil was being lit by the torches. So what I did is I set up these little spheres that I animated whenever the torches are hitting the body. And these spheres are used as a dynamic paint effect. So they paint, like what you can see here is the emitter of the fire. And they actually paint the influence of where the fire is going. If you look at that, there is the weight group. So this is what starts the fire, basically. So whenever the torches are hitting it in a certain rhythm, it lights. It kind of acts as a lighter fluid. Anyway, this is Phil burning and he is being lit by the torches. And of course the fire is going to be green in the final iteration of this. So no questions from the audience, please. Questions at the end. So then there were a couple of fixes with it when Phil gets jumped into the pit. First of all, Matthew wanted us to have not the clean assets for this. So the problem is that we only had props that were clean. So I actually swapped them out for dirty props, which was doing some parenting that was quite nasty, but I also got rid of the intersections here in the process. You can see how that goes here. And I actually, the rest of the trash is made by geometry nodes, and that was part of the library file of the set, but I made it local, and then I animated it with a little bit of a wiggle effect in the nodes, and so the trash kind of reacts the same way as the animated props do, also on twos. So this just adds a little bit more motion when Phil gets thrown into the pit, so it doesn't look too static. Then there was the pickle jar simulation. So we also wanted to finish. Village, and we have that one shot that Monica is animating where Rex grabs the pickle jar, and the problem is that there has to be a liquid inside because Rex upends spills out the liquid. So this is me trying to bake this on the actual animation, and it works great. Yeah, it's like the forces are so big that when he rips it from Phil's hand, it just explodes. So we can't do that. Then what I did instead was actually bake a static jar that doesn't move at all. And I just changed gravity of the universe. So this was an early test and it still isn't right because there's too much stuff spilling, but that was the general idea, that I animated a force field kind of going around it. And I changed the gravity to negative. So it's actually shooting up into space. And that was quite promising. So this was the first version and I parented it to the jar. So that animation just gets cached and it gets spilled. So this has a little bit too many drops. And this, I think, should have just the right amount of drops. So you can see it kind of just is there, and it shouldn't drag too much attention to itself. I kind of parented to the object with a lattice. So the lattice kind of deforms the thing because it's just shooting up. So I just curved the lattice and kind of curved around, so it's following the right arc down. Also, the thing is that I wanted to have motion blur on this, so I added a shape key to the lattice, and the shape key kind of just wiggles it around the Z rotation, the Z translation axis. So this is a kind of a subframe wiggle. So between the subframes, when it's changing frames, it's subtly wiggling. And what happens if you motion blur that, then it kind of looks natural like a motion blur. This is how it looks like in a shot, and you totally don't see it. The animation will be adjusted for this, so I'll have to probably tweak this next week also. So sorry, this is lighting on Ritual. I finished lighting on Ritual, so this is now all there. Some of the environment will be adjusted as well. More on that later. I also did the little spritz simulation for this shot, and that's that. Phil getting lit on fire. And I also went through all the shots and I wiggled the lights around so it actually looks like firelight. And there was a little bit back and forth, and I had to make sure that it's wiggling just the right amount so it actually looks like fire, because the fire is actually not lighting the scene, it's lights that are off camera and so on. Anyway, so then I went into intro, and for intro, I'm gonna start it next week. But I went into some of the shots and addressed some of the notes that we had. So for the first shot of that, this was the old version of it. And then we had a lot of asset updates. So this is how that looked like. And I had just kind of tweaked it to, this is very flat, and this is less flat, and more of that next week. And that's kind of what I started with the entire sequence. So we also have this shot of Ellie crossing the log bridge. This was the first version of it. This was the second version of it. And then I kind of threw everything away and I relit it because a lot of stuff has changed. And you can see that everything looks very flat here. So I tried to refocus the shot on the lighting. So Ellie gets a little bit of contrast. The lighting on the log bridge is changed. And then here, this just helps guide our eye a little bit better because the tree in the foreground is not lit anymore. And then this is with the new leaves from Simon, and more on that later. Wow. Then there's the final shot where they're crossing the log bridge, and this was a big one because we also had background that got added here. So this is with a new background set from Julien, and the wrong environment map because I took it from the beginning shot. This still has the wrong environment map, but I changed lighting to be a little bit more focused on Ellie. Also, Matthew wanted her to be a little bit more in light. This is with the correct environment that fits the entire scene. So now we have updated intro in the edit, and I'm gonna stop now really because I've talked.
Now, for animation, I have to tell you guys, animators are still alive, still rocking, and we're almost nearing the end of finishing this movie. So I'm very happy what we've been through this week. You're gonna see a lot of new shots coming up, and yeah, I'll be starting off with my little week here. If it will load. Oh man, come on. Let me refresh. Oh, that's new. And we go to playlists. And that's good. Here we go. All right. So this week I was working on Grove. And on the last shot of the movie, pretty much the last shot with the parade of the sprites singing and dancing. So this is a fairly easy shot. I've made 4 versions, and this was a little too wiggly, so we went for less wiggly. And then I've been working on this shot. This is still work in progress, but it was already nice to see and get feedback on this version where our main sprite is running into the bushes. What he's doing here? Yeah. He's getting out of his hole. Out of his hole in the ground. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, there's a lot of tweaking still to be done, and also these guys are not animated, so I'll be continuing on this next week. There will be some tweaks done for the bushes, so we get a nice little corridor here where Ellie will crawl into as well. And then also I've been continuing working on this shot where you've seen a version probably from last week, which is this.
The forest is our happy home. All together now. Sprite, with the sun. Sprite.
So I slowly started iterating on the sprites, give them each one of them, push them a little bit into their own character, being more how do you say, like wounded along the queue of sprites, and also added some lip sync. This shot, I still have to work on the lip sync and some additional animation, but we're almost there. So here we go.
The forest is our happy home. All together now. Sprite, with the sun. Sprightly.
So this will be, I'll show an update next week when it's fully polished and done. Then Mac was a little sick, unfortunately, today, but I'll be showing some of his work. He's been working on a shot in Grove here, and I'm going to show the last version of this shot, which is Rex asking Ellie politely to fix the tent.
Oi, fungus freak, make yourself useful and fix. Oi, fungus freak, make yourself useful and fix. Oi, fungus freak, make yourself useful.
Also, our little friend Jay here is being in the background, which I love how he's
Oi, fungus freak.
Unzipping his pants and like his little walks. Very cool. That was my week.
So this week I wrapped up Village. I have some progress videos for you guys. So let me see here. There were a couple of shots that were really out of place, and mostly because of background separation and the fill light. So all of this slightly blue, like light leaking on Rex here, I mean, that just communicates that they're outside, and not having enough fill light is really kind of isolating, like it feels like it's in an interior. So here's another one. Basically dimmed the background a bit and created more contrast, less flat lighting.
Which one did you pick now?
So this is the final one.
Final.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have thought of that. Yeah, this is quite a shot with a lot of iterations due to the background separation as well. So the sprites at the beginning are quite bright, and yeah, the background is quite bright as well. So just iterating the hell out of it. So this is the final version, and also correcting the rim lights on the sprites, and making sure Ellie is lit as well. Little things like that. Yeah, same shot as the other one I showed. Very subtle. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's basically, this is like the old version, which is much more flat. And we wanted to, well, basically make it have a bit more contrast, like overall in the whole sequence. So that's what I addressed this week. I'll show you one more last thing here. So this is the whole sequence.
So nice, colorful ones.
Yeah. So making sure that all the sprites and the ladybugs have unique dots. It's
very important part. And Simon, I think he'll show you guys as well. He did a lot of updates on the shading on the ground as well. It's the famous pickle jar shot. Yeah, so yeah, I guess that's my week.
So this week I jump on the boss sequence with this shot of Elder just before jumping to Ellie. So what I want to do this. Yeah, well, this was my first blocking pass. So the main note here is that, well, we lose just the momentum on the jump because I make him jump too high and make him go down. So we don't want that. And well, I came back to the layout trajectory that we have in this version, which is now everything on choose now. And we don't see him falling yet. It's nice, better. And then the last version, which is the proof, I think. I also add this extra bit. This was one note before the jumping. It was becoming super saiyan and getting super hungry. So yeah. And then I jump to next shot. This one. Well, this is the blocking. I just make the expression, and yeah, the last version from today is this one, which I add more energy because the previous one was too linear, and this one we see like the energy. I still need to polish something, but yeah, it's almost done. And that's my week.
So there was some feedback from last week. This is like part of a bigger change that needs to be made. That was already mentioned because the bushes are a bit random right now in the growth and they need to really form this sort of entrance. So I adjusted this already for this particular shot, but I need to go into some more. But we also noticed that the bushes in general could use a bit of an update because they have a lot of intersecting leaves, but they also had this like inner object that had like these green blurry splotches that were supposed to make like add a bit of an inner body to it, and I updated it so it's actually using leaves instead, which even when backlit like doesn't really change much because there was the worry that we're not able to look through it anymore that much, but we weren't able to see it that much anyway. So this is now in comparison with the old and the new, so it doesn't add a lot, but it also doesn't add a lot of render time or anything, so it's good that we added it for the close-ups, especially because here I went in and rearranged a lot of the leaves and replaced this inner body, which really just added these weird blurry dots, and now they're gone. There's still some intersections going on over here, but I already fixed those. So these are also comparisons for some other shots, and then from above. And like Hjalti mentioned, there was an update to the chasm tree, like this one. And this is just one of the notes that I had. And this is the latest version of the branch. So this is now matching much more the layout from Hjalti. And in general, the tree was updated. So that should all be good now. And then the last thing I did is I updated the clouds, the models over here for the last shot. The procedural system still needs to be applied. That makes it kind of actually fluffy and adds a bit more detail. And I think we actually also need to change the leaves in the foreground so that they also get the updates that Simon did to all of the shaders and textures. But that's mostly what I did, like little fixes also to some other assets and shots, just so the final renders that we already saw are gonna look good. And that's my week.
This week I need to show you the same shot again. I'm sorry, but we're still on the polishing phase. And I'll show you the version for last week and this week's version. So these ones. And I know at first sight it's like hard to see the difference. It's a bit like the game of find the 10 differences. But spoiler, there are more than 10. So yeah, a lot of polishing notes and stuff. And then I start a new shot, which is this one. Yeah, it's a bit short. And it's the shot when Ellie sees for the first time the sprites, and we wanted to show that the amazement and surprise, like, oh my God, what is this that I'm seeing? And it's funny because the directors gave that reference from Jurassic Park. So I actually listened to the music of Jurassic Park while animating this. And like in my head, I'm watching this and I'm like, and yeah, it's a fun shot. And that's it. For
Last week I wasn't here. And then I worked on a shot in Grove where Ellie is left behind with horribly destroyed tent. And yeah, she doesn't know how to
She's
fix
a
it.
real weed,
Oh.
that one in it. She's a real weed, that one in it.
There was a lot of work, not per se with Ellie, but with the tent. I spoke with the matter all the time to get things fixed and changed, and eventually we got this, so that's really nice. And the shot I worked on this week was Ellie, following the sprites into Sprite Village. It was pretty complicated because crawling isn't easy. This was my first very rough version. And well, I'll just show the final shot. And today I worked on reference for escape. So I'm gonna show the weird stuff I've been doing today. Okay. Oh, I can also show the crawling, but let's see. So this is the first shot in escape. I was lucky that we had a fanny pack at home. I didn't. Let's see. How do I get the rest of the? Oh. And the Indiana Jones shot. So. And then I've been also, let's see, doing. That is a fanny pack, orange one. I've also been doing lots of walks, scared walks. I'll show you a little bit. So this is like, I tried so many different things, and anyway, I'm still working on it. That's what I did today, and I did a blocking, but yeah, that was my week.
From the last week, if you remember, I worked on the clouds for the intro shot where we see the forest for the first time, and that was kind of, I mean, it looked kind of nice, but also a little bit static. Like it's just one image in the background, but it's not. It's clouds, so might as well just make use of that and move them around a little bit. It's very subtle, but just subtle enough to not drag too much attention. And yeah, doesn't fit into doesn't fit into the aspect ratio, but there's in comparison to just see that it's moving a little bit towards the camera to just add a little bit more depth and make it a little bit more live. Then yeah, this week was mostly for me about environment shading, and one thing that I was looking at was the ground on the Sprite Village set. So before, this was looking very dry and with all these cracks in there, and I wanted to replace that, so I just rebuilt a little bit from the ground up, basically, into something more like this. So it looks a little bit more, a little bit smoother, a little bit more natural, and just add some more variation into the ground as well to have basically paths where the sprites are walking around more, a little bit more flat, and others a little bit more dynamic. And it also should obviously work in the close-ups. There's a couple of these.
And yeah, it just looks a little bit nicer. Also addressing the intersections with the displacement. So that's all fixed up now, and it just looks a little bit nicer in general. Then apart from that, I looked at the Elder Sprite tree, which needed to have some of the shading redone because yeah, there's a lot of like bubblegummy weirdness going on. So I changed that. It looks more like this now. Yep, so it looks better. I had to basically redo the UVs for that one and I mean it's a whole tree, it's not just that thing, so it was a little bit more work. Wrong folder. And then you've basically seen most of this already, but I redid a little bit, a bunch of the environment shading for like the plants and yeah. So something I looked at in the beginning was the ferns that we have all over the place, to just add more detail to them. Yeah, like this. And then I looked into also adding a little bit more thickness. In this shot, it's not even that visible, but in other shots, it just adds a lot if we have a little bit of thickness to the leaves and they don't just look flat like paper. Like in this shot here, when you look here, it's very clear that it's just a flat plane. And so, okay. And that's kind of how it looks right now. A little bit smoother on the edges. So it just adds more detail. And then I also addressed the leaves and the bushes because those basically had no shading before. Now they have a nice texture. And yeah, that's the thing with the movie. We basically have leaves in like 90% of the shots everywhere in the background. So it's a pretty crucial thing to get this right as well. And that also took a bunch of iterations looking at all the different shots to make sure that it actually works. So yeah, and then I went through all the files and make sure that the shaders work. So also the bushes have this bark texture now. Bunch of things. I don't have renders of everything, like all the environment stuff. I just did a pass over, and yeah, that's also what you've seen. Just a comparison. And basically the same thing for the leaves of the oak trees. So that's what it looked like before. So we have now. And yeah, that propagates to all the shots. This one. Huh. I think Blender thinks it's a sequence. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Not much of a difference. Sorry, the technology is letting me down. But it looks great. Yeah, and then a bunch of other random stuff, like a bunch of small things that need to be addressed. Here these icons on the buttons were on the other side that you can see here. So I changed that to be actually visible. This I showed, and then yeah, we had a bunch of bush crops for different aspects. So I went through all of these and made them work. Also with a little bit of thickness that needed a little bit more tech with the solidify and some more material adjustments. The butterfly. Oh yeah, the leaf as well. Like all these leaves that we have for different parts of the movie, just small things that needed to be done. Not a lot of work, but yeah, just a bunch of things. And yeah, this is the environment shading I did this week, and that's my week.